Take a pit stop for all things NASCAR with the Four Tire Change podcast. Here is your host, Dawson Iserlo.
All right, it's Four Tire Change. We are back. The NASCAR playoffs roll on with what was really an incredible race at Watkins Glen on Sunday. We'll recap that. We'll get you an update to the playoff standings, the playoff bubble with just one race to go in the round of 16. Give you a preview of the Bristol night race as well. All that coming up here on the Four Tire Change podcast, ESPN Southwest Louisiana, with myself, your host, Dawson Iserlo. Excited that you joined us here today and plenty to get to. So, going into this second round of the playoffs, and I talked about it going into it with Atlanta, then Watkins Glen, a modified drafting track plus a road course, felt like this thing could get pretty jumbled up. And that's exactly what ends up happening, is we'll get to where some of these guys are in the bubble that we probably didn't expect to be talking about in relation to the bubble, and a couple of guys who are feeling good about where they are, and we thought they were going to be in some trouble, but that's just kind of how it's played out, right? Issues for Blaney and Hamlin early in this race, but Hamlin's able to keep things going. Blaney done for the day, so you knew he was in a good spot, but a DNF always is going to hurt you in the playoffs. If you don't win a race, you're now going to be feeling some pressure later on. Blaney's still probably fine, but that was certainly concerning for the number 12 team in the early portion of this thing. Truex Jr. with a massive Stage 1 win. Based on where he was, we knew the struggles at Atlanta in what's been it's going to be the last year for Truex running for a championship. He was in some trouble, and he got a big-time performance winning Stage 1, getting those 10 important stage points as well as the one playoff point for the win of the stage. That was huge for him. Chastain and SVG, they had tough luck there at the end of Stage 2 as Daniel Suarez spins, who's actually, of course, a teammate of Ross Chastain, actually, and then kind of a teammate of SVG as well. That ends up hurting them, but those two, had a pretty good run throughout. The Trackhouse speed that's been kind of up and down all season long. Of course, Suarez got into these playoffs because of his win in Atlanta. Chastain just barely missed out on him, but they were kind of battling there, and they get caught up. Then Hamlin finds a way to get a stage point there in Stage 2. After, feeling like there was a chance he was going to be out of this race with the early incident. He battles his way back into contention and gets himself a point, so that was nice for him. But then he gets involved with the second incident there. Keselowski kind of dumps him. I don't know how much blame you put on either guy, but it was just a very eventful Sunday afternoon for Denny Hamlin and that number 11 team, which after the penalty from Toyota with the engine stuff, it's just been a tumultuous playoffs for them. And all in all, he finds himself in yet another eventful day where he's going to be, one of those drivers that we think is okay, but still has some work to do, especially now being below the cut line. Like, he's got a lot of work to do on Sunday, or Saturday night, I should say. Get the schedule mixed up a little bit there. Speaking of Hamlin, I wanted to address this while we were on him. Off the racetrack, a little bit of news that just dropped. Bubba Wallace, 2311, getting the 2-year contract extension. Of course, Denny Hamlin is the owner of that race team. So, look, there were some questions at times with the number of drivers, the number of seats available, the charters, all that stuff, where Bubba fit into this thing. I know he just narrowly missed the playoffs. He had a pretty consistently solid season, but it wasn't great. He didn't find a way to win a race. They're keeping him around. And I think all in all, that is the right thing to do. I think Bubba's shown you enough potential. At some point, it feels like it's got to click a little bit more, though, but he gets some more time to try and figure that out. And I think all in all, no real complaints for me on that. And 2311 still trying to build a foundation, and he was a pillar of the beginning of that organization, and they're going to keep him in place. So getting back to the race at Watkins Glen, there's another caution here. This time it's for Burton. Those cautions kind of kept disrupting the flow of things down the stretch. You had Byron and Keselowski going at it here at some point with another accident. You had Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick get involved. And then we get to this last segment where Chris Buescher is racing for the win against Shane Van Gisbergen. Of course, SVG, who came onto the scene and won his very first race at the Chicago Street Course in the Cup Series. He's now been running this modified schedule in Cup, full-time in Xfinity. Next season, he's going to run full-time in the Cup Series, and a performance like Sunday kind of shows you why. He's going to have, if there's 7 road course races on the schedule, he's got 7 really good chances to win. No doubt about it. And he's right there once again. But this time, Chris Buescher gets the best of him. What a move. And that's when I talked about how exciting this race was. That sequence where SVG makes a little slip up. And I think that's the beauty. This was like perfect road course Cup Series racing. Little slip up. Buescher fills that gap. He kind of inserts himself in the corner, makes a little contact, pushes him up the track just a little bit, completes the pass, and goes about his way. It was pretty clean, right? There's a tiny bit of contact, but it's welcomed, I think, based on SVG kind of messing up the corner. And Buescher gets the win. And after so many close calls, after so many really unfortunate breaks, the 17 team, it's unbelievable that they weren't in the playoffs after everything early in the season for him that just didn't go his way. For them to get a win right here feels pretty good, I think. And I was kind of satisfied watching that win just because of how much they've gone through. So it's a non-playoff driver who gets the win. That means nobody locks themselves into the next round. And where do we sit on points? Joey Logano, of course, is already into the round of 12 based on his win. Christopher Bell, another nice points day. He is plus 46. He is very comfortable. Austin Cindric is plus 43. How about a guy we didn't expect to be that comfortable on the cut line? But he is, Austin Cindric. And I said, drafting track and a road course feels like Cindric could be somebody who sticks around in these playoffs. I think that's going to come true. And also a guy, he's had some success at Bristol at times as well. So as long as they don't have a massive disaster of a day, they'll be fine. Same with Alex Bowman, who's plus 41. Daniel Suarez, plus 36. Another one I think took advantage of styles of tracks that he's pretty good at. And, is going to be looking very good to put himself into the round of 12. So shout out to Daniel Suarez and the 99 team. Tyler Reddick's plus 30. Chase Elliott's plus 30. Ryan Blaney plus 29. Kyle Larson plus 26. William Byron plus 25. For all of those drivers, if you go to Bristol Motor Speedway for the Saturday night race and you have a solid points day, you don't get caught in any accidents, you're going to feel pretty good about yourself. Now, we know it's Bristol. Somebody's going to get caught up in something pretty early. And if it's one of those drivers, probably specifically from Reddick down to Byron, where it's plus 30 to plus 25, that window where you don't quite have as much of a cushion, you're going to have to sweat it out if you're one of those drivers and if you get caught in something. But if those guys have solid points days, they can set it and forget it. They're into the round of 12. And here's the bubble. It's basically a five-man playoff for one spot between these guys, assuming, again, no one else in the top has any issues. Chase Briscoe's plus 6. Denny Hamlin is minus 6. Brad Keselowski's minus 12. Martin Truex Jr. minus 14, even with the stage win and the nice run there. Things didn't quite end the way he would have liked them to, and he's on the outside looking in. Harrison Burton's minus 20. Still not fully out of it, even for Burton. And, look, Wood Brothers has brought some fast cars to Bristol in the past. It's been a track that they've had some success at. I don't expect Burton to make it to the next round, but hey, he's not fully out of it. He's not minus 45 or minus 50 the way we've seen some guys in the past that, kind of got into the playoffs based on what we call a fluky win. It's going to be really interesting for me to see that battle. If Truex and Keselowski, and that's why the stage thing I think is good for the playoffs, like the stages and the stage points that are available. If you're Truex and you get 10 stage, let's say you win a stage or you come in second or third, like 10, 9, 8 stage points, you can erase that deficit immediately, especially if Briscoe doesn't get any or if Hamlin doesn't get any, like you're right there. If you don't get stage points, right, you might put yourself in a situation where by the third stage you're in a win or bust situation, and that's what I think you're going to try to avoid if you're Martin Truex Jr. or if you're Brad Keselowski. Denny Hamlin, he knows if he has a really solid points run, all he's got to do is outscore Briscoe by 6 points, and I think he knows he can do that, but he's got to keep in mind those cars that are behind him, Keselowski and Truex, if they have really good days, he does have to keep aware of them. Who'd have thought, like Denny Hamlin could go home after the first round of the playoffs, and it's been, it's always the hunt for that first championship, and he still hasn't found a way. Man, it's a massive Saturday night for Denny Hamlin and the 11 team, and it's not fully fair that they're even in this position because of that penalty that really wasn't their fault at all, but that's where we are. So let's see if the 11 team responds, and I kind of have a feeling they will. I kind of feel like he's going to get through. As far as a winner at Bristol, I think it ends up, in my opinion, being a guy who's in the playoffs but isn't under the pressure. And so I'll take Christopher Bell. I'll take the guy who has all those points kind of built up because I think he's going to be in a point, after the stages are complete and it's not a complete meltdown, he'll know that he's locked into the next round. And once he knows that, I think it starts to loosen him up and they can go for this win. So give me the 20 team. They're starting to put that momentum together. I've said it before, Christopher Bell's a guy who, when the playoffs come on and he needs a win, he's one of the clutchest drivers in the sport. At least he has been historically here the last couple of years of his career. So can't wait for it. Look, Saturday night at Bristol is always a ton of fun. It should be a great race. It should be a great spectacle. And I'm here to enjoy it. So hope you all enjoy it as well. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Keep growing this this channel, this podcast if you enjoy it because we enjoy bringing it to you each and every week. So that'll do it for another episode. 4 Tire Change.